Hi there, I'm Andre from Peak Motorcycles, and in this video I'm going to be fitting, well, trying to fit various protector parts that I bought from AliExpress to my Kove 450 Rally. Now, if you'd seen the video I did for the rack, it didn't exactly fit first time, need a little bit of fettling. That was last summer, so that was summer of 2023. It's now 2024, 7 months, 8 months later. A few people have been in touch to say they've actually bought these racks since then. The first few people that got in touch said that they had the holes in the wrong place. They still had to drill those out, but it did come with a full set of hardware. Just recently, so this is at the end of March 2024, someone got in touch to say not only did theirs fit, it also came with all the hardware. So it looks like whatever manufacturing problems they had with these racks, they've now been sorted out. All these pieces I did actually buy last summer from AliExpress, so they are early. They probably haven't had any of the updates that came to the bike after the Dakar, but nevertheless I'm going to try and fit them and see what works. So before I do that, I'll give you a quick look at what they are, and then I'll probably weigh them. So these are the items. The first one is this sort of thin alloy protector, which I think is for the front brake caliper and ABS sensor. The second thing, and this I believe is like a heel guard for the rear brake master cylinder. When I look in the bag that it came with, it just seems to come with a couple of bolts with a couple of spacers, which to me suggests it's like a standoff. The next thing I've got, and I must admit, I'm trying to remember what this one's actually for. Let me show you, there we go. Again, it's just a thin piece of metal, similar to the others, no branding or anything. A couple of holes in it and a couple of bolts with spacers. So again, I think that might also be for a standoff, possibly for the rear ABS sensor. In this bag, I have some more heavy duty bolts and mushrooms. They're basically sliders made out of quite tough plastic. So I guess if I ever lay it down on tarmac, I'd much rather that got scraped along the road instead of my fuel tanks. So there's two of those, one for each side. There we go, that's them. And then last but by no means least, I'm not going to unwrap all of this just yet, is this. And it's a rear axle slider, but it's also got the bobbins for putting a track stand on it. Now for the most part I've been using a lift stand underneath the bash plate. It is carbon fibre. Am I worried it's going to crack it? It might crack it if I put it in the wrong place and step down too hard. So I'm going to fit this onto the rear axle and see if I can use it with a track stand, just for maintenance really, as well as giving some protection, again, if I lay it down. If you don't like things being weighed, now is the time to turn off. So the first thing I'm going to weigh is the one that I think is for the rear brake caliper. Super light, 35 grams. The next thing is the crash mushrooms, which feel quite heavy. 366 with the bolts, 420. The guard for the front brake caliper. Now this didn't come with any bolts, so I assume it just bolts on with what's on the bike. Super light, 61 grams. And the one for the heel guard, again pretty light, 30 grams plus the bolts is a mere 45. And then the one which might be quite heavy because it's got the big piece of steel through the middle is the rear axle slider, 206 grams. So I'll put all of those in the description, and if you want to know in total without having to add it up, stick all those on there. So in total I am adding 767 grams to my Kove 450 Rally. So the first thing I'm going to put in is this rear slider. These are actually alloy. I thought they might be plastic, but they are alloy. They'll still protect the swing arm to a certain degree. So I'm just going to pop those in there. That actually looks like a pretty straightforward fit. To put them on, it's just a 5mm hex wrench. So I'm just going to undo one end, and then hopefully I can just slot it through. Both sides look exactly the same. There we go. What I will do is I'll thread it through from the other side, just so you can see it, and I don't have to move the camera. It feels as though this tube is actually too long, and actually on the far side, I don't know if you can see on there, it's got this sort of bit that's stepped, and on this end that fits quite nicely to go in there, because that's a bigger hole. If I just show you the other side, so on this side it's got the nut and the inner bit of that bolt, and actually that kind of stands proud. That doesn't really seem quite right on there. So you know what? I'm not actually going to fit this simply because that needs to be machined down. You know, to have a smaller insert on the end that actually fits inside there. Both of them are the same, so it's not like I can use one on one side but not the other. So that one, unfortunately, is a no. Shame really, because it would have been useful to be able to just put a track stand under the back for doing chain adjustments. So the next one I'm going to try and fit is this rear reservoir cover, which just fits in there. So this is a T30 to remove these two bolts. Blimey, they've been done up well. Oh, blimey, that is tight. There's an awful lot of thread lock on here. In fact, I might even put that one back in first, just so I don't overstress the brake lines. Don't get me wrong, I get the need for thread lock, but this is like working on a BMW. I'm actually going to put it on the side stand. I'm having to put so much force on it, I'm concerned I'm going to wobble it off the main stand. I think from that angle it's probably slightly easier to work on as well. The thread lock I normally use is the blue thread lock, which tends to hold things steady, and then when you actually want to remove them, it's a click to get it off the first, to break the seal, and then they come out quite easily. No idea what they've used on this, but it's not that. Now to put this back on, essentially putting that on with that through there, onto a spacer, and then hopefully through and into the master cylinder. At least that was the plan. Those spacers haven't been cut particularly well. In fact, they haven't been cut well at all. I don't know if you can see that on that. The same with that one actually. There is a spacer, but they're not threaded, they just need enlarging. What I might, oh, there we go. There we're in. So I'm just going to put this back on now. It's with a 5mm hex. If you line those holes up. It is pulled out of the way slightly when it's on the spring, the return spring for the brake lever. Okay, so that actually fits pretty well. Yeah, happy with that. Let's give you a quick look around it. You can see that in there. The spacers just stand it off a little bit, but it's definitely not in the way. It's not going to catch on your boot or anything. Yeah, I suppose if those were panhead, I think they're called, sort of the domed bolts, that would probably work a little bit better, but I think that's fine as it is. Excellent, so that's one fail, one success. So now I have this piece, and this one is proving a bit of a mystery. It doesn't really seem to fit anywhere. You know, there's nothing on there that those holes line up with. So I'm wondering if this is actually a casualty of the redesign. So I think when this first came out, this ABS sensor was actually on the underside. Lots of people said that's a daft place to put it, and I think they moved it so it was up on top. So it does kind of make more sense if that had been on the underneath, that would fit under there to protect it. Obviously it's not going to go up there, that doesn't make any sense. So I think this one also doesn't do anything. Not on my UK bike from the summer of 2023. So that's not so great. So that's 2 fails, 1 success. So the next thing I'm going to try fitting are these crash mushrooms, crash bungs, whatever you want to call them. So they go in here on the fuel tank bolt. So I'm just going to take that out, and that's a 6mm hex in there. Also done up really tight. See what I can do with that. There we go. Okay, so that's the bolt that comes out. As you can see, the bolts to go in are actually more or less the same design, with a washer, which I think just allows it to not turn too much on the crash mushroom. So pop that in and see, hopefully, if that fits. So that's on there now. The only thing I would say is that it is pressed up quite tight against the tank, just on that front edge. It's probably not the end of the world. Yeah, that's all right. Let's give you a quick look. As you can see, this is what I meant, that on this side it is very flush, which I suppose it's not terrible. It is secure. And if I bring it round, just show you the other side, you can see there is that bigger gap. If I get out the light, just in there. I suppose having a slightly profiled crash mushroom would have been a bit better, but yeah, that's no problem really. I have seen some that have the writing on and some that didn't. I thought I'd ordered one without the writing, but yeah, again, it is what it is. I'm sure when I scrape it down the road the first time, that will come off. Right, I'll go and do the other side. So I think this one will be the same. There we go. And same thing, short one comes out, big one goes in. Okay, so that is it. So they fit. It's not a brilliant fit because of the gap on that side and because it's hard up against it there, but I suppose they will give some protection sliding down the road. So the next thing I'm going to try and fit is this front caliper guard. Now I can see that that does line up over there, and there are some spacers that came with the bolts that came with it. What I'm not sure of is whether it's actually going to clear the ABS sensor, because if I look at the thickness of those, we can see them on the camera, they're probably only about 3 or 4 millimeters thick. And by the time I've put that through there and then put a spacer in and replaced the very robust looking stock bolts that are in there, I'm not sure whether that's actually going to help me at all. I'm going to try it just because that's kind of what I'm doing these videos for. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave it on, but let's see. I'm just going to take it off the lift. Yeah, it's another one that's just done up really tightly. It's a 10mm to get these off, I hope. Yeah, there we go. There's rather a lot of thread lock on that. As you can see, that's just been covered all over, made a right mess of it. These are replacement bolts to go in. They don't have those nice caps. That's just a hex, but I'm hoping that they do fit and they'll have just a little dot of thread lock on them. Should hopefully be sufficient. Now that is kind of how it's going to be fitted. That's with both spacers in and the bolts in. And if you can see just at this end, I think when that's actually done up tight, it's going to be just pushing on the ABS cable. So I'm not going to fit this for now. It does fit over the caliper, it does protect that. That all looks okay. What doesn't look so great is the fact that it's rubbing against the ABS sensor. Now, at some point if I do something with the wheels, I might see if I can adjust that sensor and put it somewhere else, because having it low down like that is not ideal. That's something that can snag, and if that will swivel round and go at the top, then that will be better. However, for now, I'm not going to fit that. I'm just going to put the other bolts back in. got a small screwdriver just scraping out some of this old thread lock because it really wasn't doing it much good. Clean those threads out a bit. And then I'll just put a small blob on to refit. There we go, that is back on, so that's a no for that one. So unfortunately, for my AliExpress bits, that's just 2 out of 5 that I'm going to use. So that is it. That is my video attempting to fit 5 different protection parts from AliExpress to my Kove 450 Rally. I will put links to all of these parts in the description, but you know, I think it's more what not to get rather than things to buy. So just a very quick summary, the rear spindle sliders that I was going to use with my track stand didn't fit just because the machining of the end bits didn't fit the hole through the middle of the rear axle. So that was a fail. The rear master cylinder, that did work, that's gone on, that seems to be fine. I think it'll help to keep my boots off the frame, to keep the paint unscratched. The mushrooms, they went on okay. I mean, they're not the best fit. If they were slightly angled, they'd fit a lot better with the fuel tanks. If the far end of it had the same profile as the bolt that was in there before, that would also be nice. But they do fit, they will provide some protection to the bike. The other 2 bits didn't work, which was the one for the rear ABS sensor. They've improved the design since then. I did find a picture of where it's supposed to go, which is like this, as you can see, and now that is on the top, so that's no longer required. And the last one I tried was for the front brake caliper and ABS sensor. Does look like it's actually just a front caliper protector, because where the guard actually fits, it would be knocking the ABS wire. So rather than fit it, I've left that off. I'll just hope that I don't break my front caliper. At some point, if I'm doing anything on the front end, I'll see if the ABS sensor can be moved, because right now it's still on the bottom at the front, and I think it would be better on the top. So that's it. So I think what this says is that if you're waiting for your bike, don't go and order a load of bits, because a lot of them may well not fit. The other thing I'd say is that if you're a manufacturer of hard parts for bikes, protective parts for bikes, and you think that it's not worth doing anything for the Kove because there's already a whole lot of stuff out there, I think what I've learned is that, yeah, there is a whole lot of stuff out there, from this rack that I put on to the various other guards and things, but none of them seem to have been designed particularly well. None of them fit the bike that well. They are cheap, but I think you get what you pay for. And I'm sure in due course, manufacturers will start making things for the bike itself. When they do, I'll probably have a go at fitting those as well, and hopefully it'll be a much better experience than this. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye on the channel. I've got a few more Kove videos coming over the next few weeks. Cheers.